Hi, and welcome to A Better Place. Today we will be bringing you another special edition. Stay tuned as we introduce to you a very special guest. Hi, and welcome back to A Better Place. As I mentioned in the intro, we will be bringing you a special edition today as we speak to a very well-known person on St. Martin who is an author and a historian. Ms. Daniela Jeffrey, welcome back to A Better Place.
Thank you so much and for having me on your program.
Yes, the last time you were here, we were discussing education.
Yes.
And today we are here to discuss you as an author and some of the books that you have written and what you're currently doing.
Okay.
So start off by telling us, how did you get involved in writing?
Oh. Well, it didn't happen as easy as one would think. I started writing articles for the newspapers when I came back to live in St. Martin in 1974. And from there, I was encouraged by Lastana when he came to St. Martin, and he started his edition publishing company, and he told me that I should publish that was my first, the first articles and the first study that I had made. So there's when I start really thinking about publishing books. I was also involved from 1990 in the Association Consensus, which was an association that was planned or created by Mayor Albert Fleming in order to do the studies about the status evolution of St. Martin. So that book, which was also published by the House of Niesi. So it came about, and it came along, and now my interest in the history of St. Martin came from my student years in Paris, when I was in a kind of boarding school, religious boarding school, and every month we were an international boarding school, so you had girls from all over the world, from practically the three continents, Africa, Asia, so you were mixed up with all these people, not more than 3 to 4 of each countries. And there, and at that student boarding school, students from this particular country had to present their countries. So there is where I see that they had a lot of information on their countries, and I noticed that we didn't have much at that stage in St. Martin. So it came to me, I say, when I go back to my country, I have to. And this is one of the first things I started doing. When I came back in 74, all the old people, I used to go with my little tape recorder and tape them and ask them questions and so on, because what I was really interested in was into the history of the people themselves. And you know, in our little countries, we didn't have much information on that, so you could only get it through your oral history. So all through the years that I was here, I started researching, and whatever I wrote, it was published in the papers, or I did lectures about it and so on. So this is how it happened. And my first lecture on the history of St. Martin was when we had this cultural organization, SMA Festa, that was in the 80s with Mr. Fabian Badijo was the first the president of that organization, and they had organized a certain amount of lecture, and I had the St. Martin history and culture, and that is practically the first lecture I did. Then I studied more about the ancient history of St. Martin, and then in 83, when I see the changes started to happen in the country, I say, but what do I have about the older period? And I remember I had these newspapers that my father used to send me when I was in Paris. And I just went through them, and I discovered what I discovered is that in 1963 it was the electrification, the construction of the first terminal of Juliana Airport. I'm hearing people saying that Juliana Airport started before. No, we had a base. It was an American base. Right. Juliana Airport, really, the first terminal was constructed in 1963 with the name just Juliana Airport. It's later on international was added. And since then, I hope that people can notice that we had the terminal we have there is the third terminal. Okay, so, and we have a leap every 20 years, there is a leap, because it's around 83 that the second terminal was built, and it's around 2003, 2004 that the terminal that we have here was built. So we definitely, every 20 years, which is practically a little more than a generation, we have changes, and it's good to see that at that level of the economy, we are developing, and things are getting a little more sophisticated when you look at the society itself, when you look at the people. And this is my new research right now. I did the study of the period 74 to 70, let us say 77 to 2007, which is a 30-year period. It came out in my book, Destabilization of the French Caribbean. And when you look at it, you see that that new trend, which was the trend now of the development of immigration because of the success of tourism on the island, you have a lot of other problems developing. And I think it needs to be analyzed so that we know how to tackle these problems. And my goal right now is I did it from the French development, the northern side development. Now I'm doing it from the southern side development. So that's my research right now. I don't know yet what will be because I really have to go into the details and see. But it's something, what I have noticed is the interference of politics with the development. And I think this is what I'm going to tackle in my new book. See how sometimes our politicians have good ideas, but because of the politics that comes in, it could come in either to create more problems than to really help the original vision of a particular politician.
Okay. Yeah. Well, Daniela, thanks so much for that brief explanation on some of the history of St. Martin. When we come back, I want you to give us some of the names of the books that you have already written and tell us a little bit more about 1963.
Yeah.
Stay tuned, we will be right back.
For those topsy-turvy nights, a diaper that suits your baby. Huggy Snug and Dry with all new Leak Lock. Absorbs faster to help stop leaks. Parenthood, chaotically beautiful. Enjoy it.
GEBE has been faithfully serving the communities of St. Martin, Saba, and Statia, powering your home and our economy. Come rain or shine, our qualified team of professionals are working hard 24 hours a day to provide you and your family with safe, reliable electricity and water. We use the latest technologies and test our products daily to maintain the highest international standards. Our friendly staff is always there to assist you, whether in person, over the phone, or online. We are committed to constantly improving our products and services, making them more efficient, effective, and environmentally friendly to serve you better today and our next generation of clients tomorrow. GEBE, powering.
Hi, and welcome back to A Better Place. Ms. Jeffrey, so now let's get into your books and some of the titles of your books and, you know, the content.
Well, my first book, personal book, because I told you I did the work for the association Consensus. but it was, for me, it's collective ideas, and I practically wrote most of the chapters, but I don't consider that really as my book. So my first book was really the 1963. It was a bilingual edition. I didn't bring it. It was a bilingual edition, French-English. And how I came about it is that when I read those papers of 1963 that my father used to send me when I was in Paris studying, I noticed that there were new developments. That is the year of the new developments. That was the year of the electrification of all of the southern part of the island, part of the French part. Then I discovered that that was the year of the construction of the first terminal of the Juliana Airport, and most of the stores came in at that time. Although you had a beginning of tourism since 1954 with the Little Bay Hotel, and we had before that the Seaview Hotel, which up to the 60s were practically the major hotel in the southern part. And so when I say, but this, so I start writing, separating everything and writing, and this is what came out. I published my study in 13 parts in the St. Martin Newsday at that time. It was practically the only newspaper at that time on the southern part. And it came out as a series. And as I told you, a little while writing on topics of history, of culture, of in the newspaper, and politics also during that period. So there's where I got my practice, writing articles in order to publish them immediately in the newspapers. While doing my research in the history, but mostly, and writing about it would mostly be the part of the ancient history when I go in the history files and you try to put things together so that you can share it with the people. So all these activities, writing activities, permit me to reach to the stage where I was able to write a book. And even so, I haven't reached yet to the stage that I would like to, and I need to tell the people who wants to write, the first study that I did in the first writing, I used to have my pencil and a paper and you write. And when you want to change it up, you had to scratch out and, and it was a little messy. With the computer today, the computer, for me, it's a stimulation because you don't have to scratch out. You just you take out the word, replace it, and it goes so much faster. And I think you are more stimulated. And for me, I go directly when I have something to write. I go directly on my computer, and I'm just stimulated, and the ideas just come. So I would like just to tell that difference to the people who like to write. Go straight on your computer. Don't take a pen. Don't a pencil and paper. You just go straight, and you'll see how your mind develops. And the ideas just come. And it's so easy with a computer. You can move your words so easily, and that makes, for me, it's an improvement on the art of writing. My second book I was already as a politician in the municipal council, and my second book is therefore the status scandal. that came out in 2006. And you know, I always write in both languages.
Right.
Since that is St. Martin. St. Martin is English, but it's English and French on one side and English and Dutch on the other side. So I try to write in both languages so that I don't miss out on the other part of,
Right.
of the population. So when I was the work for consensus was already dealing with the Constitution of France and the possibility for St. Martin that fell so maladjusted in the administrative structure that we had as being just a commune of Guadeloupe. I had already studied all that aspect, so I was practically ready when in the 2002, 2001, we started working, the commune then started working on a change of status. And we had already done the work, and practically it was published in 2002, the consensus work, which is a book of about 400 pages, but not only with the work of consensus, but with also other works of experts, constitutional experts. That was so. In that book, you have already a good idea of what things was. What happened also is in 2003, the French constitution was changed, and permitting the overseas territories especially, there too, first of all, there was a decentralization project which the territories and the departments, even the French department, has to decentralize, give more powers to their local administration. And that was the opportunity for them to rewrite Article 73 and 74, giving the possibility of territories like St. Martin and St. Bart's to have more autonomy from their wider constituency.
Right.
So that is when the commune and the politicians start talking all about change of status according to Article 73 or Article 74, and that is when I understood that it was the choice would have been, the St. Martin choice would have been Article 74 and not Article 73, which permitted us to administratively and nothing else be detached from Guadeloupe. So this is when I studied this, because everything went wrong from the very beginning with this Article 74, in the sense where instead of accepting the real Article 74, the politician accepted a kind of Article 73 and just call it still Article 74, because there was a form of political decentralization between the two assemblies, which was the General Council in Guadeloupe, which St. Martin was represented with two councillors at that time, and the Regional Council that was generally one or two representatives, not more. So we were detached, we were out of those two assemblies, but being out of those two assemblies was a kind of political decentralization. The administration still was in the hands of France, of the state of France, and therefore at that level there was no real decentralization. So when I saw that we were still keeping Article 73, which was defined by the fact that the laws of France would come down straight to us, instead of Article 74, where the laws of France will have to pass through. When they are voted, they will have to come directly to our council, so that our council can decide whether it was fitting for us or not. And that was refused. And for me, it was the biggest mistake. And that's why I started working on the possibility of writing about it, because I was very uncomfortable. I distanciated myself from the groups that were involved in this refusal of what Article 74 was, and that is the reason why I wrote it. This book was published in 2006. I finished writing it when we get our last organic law in 2005, and there where I really started to write it so that I can publish it. So this is where and I think I am encouraging people to read it again, because only now the people is realizing.
Right. Well,
Okay?
Ms. Jeffrey, thanks for that information once again. We have to take a break,
Yes.
and when we come back, you can discuss one or two of your what has happened
Yes.
with your 1963.
Okay.
And then you wanted to talk a little bit about reading when
Yeah.
we come back. Stay tuned. We will be right back.
Man, I'm supposed to take my girl out to dinner this weekend. I'm so broke, man.
Man, I used to have those same problems, you know. But since I got my whip company card, when I take my lady out, I even get something back, you know.
Get something back. But you're a lucky fella.
I took your mind out the gutter, man. What I mean is, with whip company I get back 1% on every purchase I make. With this card, I can spend in guilders and use it throughout the Netherlands and TDs. Instead of paying 1% of the dollar credit card, man, I get 1% back on every purchase I make at the end of the year.
What? I gotta get myself a company on card.
Man, but let's go.
Let me go. Man, now my lady's birthday gonna be a real celebration.
At least now with whip company I know you're gonna get something back.
The Web Compa Leon credit card with limits as low as 500 guilders. You don't have to walk with cash, and it is accepted by practically all businesses. The Web Compa Leon is the first guilder credit card that can be afforded by anyone.
Hi, and welcome back to A Better Place. Ms. Jeffrey, we've talked about two of your books, and you have a third book and a second edition. Tell us a little bit more about those books.
Well, in 2001, I already said that I studied the 30-year period of development from the French side perspective, and this gave me the destabilization of the French Caribbean. Because also I'm analyzing what has happened in the other French departments, Martinique and Guadeloupe. And this came out in 2011, always both edition, French and English. It's a 30-year period, so it's a very dense, and I think it's we're coming up into Black History Month. I think it's an opportunity for people to read and reread, especially the status book. And this year, it's still on, but the 2012 and 2013, I was able to do a second edition of the book, because it was out of stock, the first edition of 1963. And I separated them into two books, the French, that is not yet on the market, and the English. And I did a first signing at Van Dorp in December. And it's a very beautiful book in the sense that the pictures are in colors, and those are the pictures from the 1960s. So people who want to reminiscent this period can always deal with it. And it's also a children book. It's also a children book, because you can give this book to your child. The writing is very simple, and see and go through it, or read for your children. And I think this is, we are not doing that enough, because the kids are not seeing their parents taking a book and reading. So they develop this lack of interest in books. And I really think that we need to encourage that, and especially since we got the Black History Month, all my books is about the history of the island. So you need to rededicate yourself. And unless you you know your history, you definitely cannot make the right decisions in the present, and then definitely not guide your future in the right direction.
But you know, like you talked about knowing your history, and I also have a radio program with youngsters, the Kids Place, on SOS. And we were discussing that just last week about having these classes that actually deal with St. Martin's history. And they were saying that they really don't know much because it's not being taught. And I mean, if we have great books like yours,
Yes.
why can't we use them in the classroom? Why can't we incorporate into our curriculum a special history class dealing specifically only with St. Martin or Saba Statia, our surrounding islands, so our children
Yes,
can know about our
definitely.
history?
And even through certain programs, what the quizzes about these, the information in these books, that also will encourage the youngsters to read so that they can answer correctly to the
Yes.
quizzes. And there's so much information in these books. And as I say, people love pictures, and this is a color picture book.
Right.
It's permit, you know, the attraction and then the little reading on the side. And it's, I think more has to be done concerning the information we get about our history, because it's not just information. It's about understanding where we come from so that we can more ground ourselves in this present to make better decisions for the future. Because what I'm seeing is that instead of being totally involved in developing this, the country, for the people of the country, we are just spreading out our ideas and doing for people from other countries, whereas every country has its possibility to help its people to develop. And I think we need to go more, not just buy the book, read it. We read it essentially, because reading your mind, when you read something, it's your mind that is going to understand, but you understand with what you know, the state of your mind at that time. And 4 years later, you have experienced more of that, and then when you reread it, you read it with a different perspective because of the experience you gathered before. So I think we need to more get into the reading process. And of course, adults have to read so that the children can see, they know that the parents have read. The books is not just on the shelf, you know? And so, I mean, it's a vast amount of knowledge you get from reading. And reading encourages you to write, because I know that I'm stimulated by in writing because I've read other people's ideas. Because while you're reading people's ideas, your brains are stimulated to formulate your own. And this is how the idea of a book comes into your head. I know the fact that many writers are being published today. People stop me sometime and ask me, Mrs. Jeffrey, I would like you to help me. I'm thinking about a book. I say, no problem when you're ready. But that is the thing. You have to read. You have to read and get yourself, and we have the books. There are so many books already on St. Martin.
Well, Ms. Jeffrey, we are out of time. I mean, it's gone by so fast. And to you, the viewing audience, thank you once again for having joined us on A Better Place. I am your host, Angelique Rameau.